Hey everyone, Heero here, and today we're gonna look at Yuzuha, a support that can build anomalies off-field while providing insane buffs that enable big PP damage. I'll be discussing her kit, builds, engines, and possible teams. Just as a quick disclaimer though, the footage and information that will be shown is from the creator experience server, so things can still change when her banner drops. Let's start by discussing her sugar points, which are indicated by a counter underneath Yuzuha's health bar, with it having a max stacks of 6 points, with you gaining 1 stack from her chain attack, defense assist, and Tanuki cloak parry, while her 2 EX specials and ult gives her 2 stacks each time you use them. Now these sugar points are required for her off-field aftershock called Hard Candy Shot, which is an off-field attack that is triggered whenever an active character other than Yuzuha hits an enemy. This attack also has an internal cooldown of 8 seconds and consumes 1 sugar point upon use. It's also one of 2 ways to trigger one of her off-field attacks, which can build anomalies off-field. But we'll talk more about that later. She also has an off-field auto attack similar to Yufufu in the form of her Tanuki. Just note, this auto attack and her aftershocks cannot build anomalies off-field, but are good ways to squeeze in a bit of extra damage in her rotations. Now moving on, Yuzuha also has an on-demand parry called Tanuki Cloak that is activated by holding her basic attack button, which puts her in a defensive stance for 1.5 seconds. And if she's hit by any attacks during this stance, she'll automatically parry and gain 1 sugar point. But the neat thing is, she also has an enhanced assist follow-up she can execute after a parry from Tanuki Cloak or defensive assist by pressing the attack button at the right time. This enhanced assist follow-up deals more damage than its regular version and is the second way to trigger Sugar Burst Sparkles Max, so as much as possible, you want to incorporate it to your rotations. Now let's move on to her EX specials. She has 2 of them, with both of them being able to trigger Quick Assist while giving 2 sugar points upon use. Her first EX special does more damage, builds anomalies faster, but has a way slower activation time due to having a longer animation, while her second one is the opposite. It deals less damage and builds less physical anomaly, but has a faster activation time. And the only way to use it is by pressing the special button after a dodge counter, quick assist, perfect dodge, or any of her 2 assist follow-ups. Now for her ult, it's a large AoE that deals lots of damage while building physical anomalies super fast. But the neat thing is, it can also trigger a quick assist while giving 2 sugar points for Yuzuha and 25 energy to other party members. She also has a special debuff called the Sweet Scare State, which is inflicted by her ult or any of her EX specials and lasts for 40 seconds, meaning it'll pretty much have full uptime. But enemies under the state will constantly be attacked by 2 types of off-field attacks, Sugar Burst Sparkle and Sugar Burst Sparkle Max. The regular version, Sugar Burst Sparkle, is similar to Vivian's DOT, wherein it deals damage every 1 second to enemies under the Sweet Scare debuff. But the cool thing is, each time this DOT deals damage, it also builds the anomaly meter even if Yuzuha is off-field. While Sugar Burst Sparkles Max deals way more damage, but is only a singular damage instance, and it can only be triggered alongside her enhanced assist follow-up or off-field aftershock. And yes, this can also build the anomaly meter while she's off-field. Aside from this, they both have similar mechanics. They're Yuzuha's main way of building anomalies off-field, with both of them having an anomaly build-up rate of 25% per hit without considering the anomaly mastery stat. And they can both be activated simultaneously, allowing for a big burst of anomaly build-up if you happen to trigger them together. But the most important part is that they both have the flavor change mechanic, allowing them to build any type of anomaly by changing the element of her Sugar Burst off-field attacks to the element of the unit that first attack an enemy under the Sweet Scare debuff from her ult or skill. Now in a real gameplay scenario, this is usually done by quick assisting into your main anomaly DPS after using Yuzuha's EX specials or ult. And it allows Yuzuha to build just about any anomaly off-field, even Miyabi's Frostburn or Yishuan's Auric Ink. Just note, you can only trigger flavor change once per Sweet Scare application. So if you want to change your Sugar Burst attack element again, you have to use Yuzuha's EX special or ult again and attack with the unit of your desired element. But the neat thing is, despite Yuzuha being able to build any anomaly, her Sugar Burst attacks do not contribute to the anomaly damage calculation. Now for those that don't know, anomaly damage calculation depends on the contribution of each unit to the anomaly bar. For example, if Yanagi builds 70% of the shock anomaly, while Grace builds 30%, it takes 30% of Grace's stats and 70% of Yanagi's when calculating for anomaly damage. However, for Yuzuha, let's say she builds 90% of the shock meter while Yanagi builds 10%. It will still treat it as if Yanagi built the whole anomaly meter and take 100% of Yanagi's stats for anomaly damage calculation. But moving on, let's look at her core passive, which gives her 3 sugar points at the start of combat, while giving the entire party the Tanuki's wish buff after using her EX specials or ult. This buff gives a party-wide 15% damage buff, while giving an attack buff based off 40% of Yuzuha's attack to the entire party. This can give up to 1,200 bonus attack, but Yuzuha needs 3,000 attack before battle in order to get this full attack buff. As for her additional ability, which requires a Spook Shack or Anomaly unit to activate, it further enhances her Tanuki's wish buff so Anomaly units can benefit more from it, with it buffing the entire team's Anomaly build-up rate and Anomaly and Disorder damage by 0.2% for every point of Anomaly mastery she has over 100. This can give up to a 20% buff to all aforementioned stats just as long as Yuzuha reaches 200 Anomaly mastery. But looking at all her buffs, due to her 15% damage and 1,200 attack buffs, it allows her to be used as a generalist support for any type of team, not just Anomaly ones. But Anomaly units will still benefit the most from her due to the Anomaly-related benefits from her kit and additional abilities buffs. And finally, for ability prio, level up her core skill first, then her basics, then her skill, then her ult and assist, and finally you can just ignore her dodge since you want to be parrying with her anyway. But with her kit out of the way, let's talk about her Mindscapes. Her M1 gives Yuzuha 30% energy at the start of battle, while the Sweet Scare state now reduces the enemy's rest by 15%. And it also increases the Disorder and Anomaly damage buff from her additional ability to 130% of its original amount. Now the bonus energy lets Yuzuha inflict Sweet Scare at the start of combat, while its new Universal Rush Red benefits any unit, not just Anomaly ones, allowing her to be used more effectively for crit teams. But Anomaly units still benefit more from this Mindscape due to it also increasing her additional abilities Max Anomaly and Disorder damage buff from 20% to 26%. While her M2 enables her EX special and ult to give a party-wide 15% damage and Anomaly build-up rate buff for 40 seconds. Reduces her Aftershocks cooldown by 25%, enables any heavy attacks to trigger a forced chain attack every 20 seconds, and gives Yuzuha 1 sugar point every time an ally switches in via chain attack. This Mindscape, just like her M1, increases her supportive utility for crit and Anomaly teams, while decreasing her Aftershocks internal cooldown from 8 seconds to 6 seconds, allowing her to activate Sugar Burst Sparkles Max more often to build anomalies faster. But the neat thing is, the forced chain attacks can introduce some very fun rotations, especially if paired with certain units. As for her M4, it increases her assist follow-ups damage by 30%, while allowing it to build anomalies 20% faster, which just incentivizes you to use your enhanced assist follow-up even more to squeeze in a bit more damage and physical anomaly build-up. And finally, for her M6, gives Yuzuha 1 additional sugar point after parrying with a defensive assist or Tanuki cloak for a total of 2 points, while enabling her enhanced assist follow-up to be charged for up to 0.8 seconds, with every 0.4 seconds of charge, consuming 1 sugar point to deal an additional attack, with 3 total hits at full charge. And if it hits an enemy with a Sweet Scare debuff, it automatically triggers Sugar Burst Sparkles Max. And for every projectile that hits an enemy, it gives a party-wide 105% Disorder damage multiplier increase for 40 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So in total, this Mindscape can give a 315 Disorder damage multiplier buff given you hit 3 shells. And it's all on top of increasing Yuzuha's personal damage output. And with her Mindscapes out of the way, let's talk about her possible Wenjins. Yuzuha's signature Metanuki Morphosis gives 60% energy with its main stat, while giving her 30 Anomaly Mastery for 40 seconds after using her EX Special or ult. Aside from this, it also gives 60 Anomaly Proficiency for 40 seconds after her Aftershock hits an enemy. Now, it's very important to note, using this Wenjin is the only way to reach 200 Anomaly Mastery. So if you really want to get her additional abilities max buff, you'll have to roll for it. But with that being said, she does have some good alternatives that with their buffs can somewhat make up for the lack of her signature. Weeping Cradle being a very good option, with its high base attack helping her reach 3000 attack so much easier. But the neat thing is, despite its low buff duration, Yuzuha can keep good uptime on its 10 to 20% damage buff due to its duration being constantly refreshed by Yuzuha's off-field attacks. Astra's Elegant Vanity is also another pretty decent option with its high base attack and 30% attack main stat, making it way easier to get 3k attack, allowing you to use other drive disc main stats for Yuzuha. But aside from this, it also provides a decent 20% damage buff at its full stacks upon using her skill twice. Just note, its buffs only last for 20 seconds, so you'll have to switch to Yuzuha a bit more frequently to use her skill to refresh its buffs. And lastly, her best 4-star option is Kaboom the Cannon, allowing her to use her EX specials a bit more often due to its energy regen passive. And the neat thing is, it also gives up to a 16% party-wide attack buff just by hitting the enemy with your party. But with possible vengeance out of the way, let's talk about drive discs. For the 4-piece set, she has 3 options for general use. First, it's Astral Voice, since she can trigger Quick Assist to proc its damage buff. Plus, it also gives 10% to help with her 3k goal. But just note, you'll have to switch into Yuzuha more often to trigger her Quick Assist in order to maintain its buff. Second is Swing Jazz, which allows you to use her EX special more often with its bonus energy, while providing a 15% damage buff. This is the set the game recommends, but my only issue with it is that its buffs do have a considerable downtime since it requires an ult or chain attack to proc its damage buff. But its bonus energy should be able to make up for it with more Yuzuha skills. And lastly, Proto-Punk is a good option. I personally prefer it since all it requires is a defensive assist from any ally to get its 15% damage buff. So keeping uptime on its buff is so much easier compared to the other options. But sadly, its 2-piece effects don't benefit her as much as the other two. She also has another pretty good option, which is Freedom Blues, allowing her allies to build Physical Anomaly 20 times faster just by using her EX special. This set is very good to consider if you plan to run her with a Physical Anomaly team with Jane, Piper, or Alice to enable their damage further. As for 2-piece sets, well, if you're running her on an Anomaly team, Phaeton's Melody is pretty much a non-negotiable requirement for its 8% Anomaly Mastery in order to get the most out of her additional abilities buffs. But if you're using her in a non-Anomaly team, you can use Hormone Punk or Astral Voice to help her reach 3k attack, or Swing Jazz to help her spam more EX specials to squeeze in a bit more damage. But with her possible drive discs out of the way, let's talk about stats. For main stats, you want Attack or AP for slot 4, Attack Pen or Physical for slot 5, and Anomaly Mastery for slot 6. Now for slot 4 and 5, as much as possible, you want to use Attack percent in order to help her reach 3k attack. However, if you've already met that goal without either a slot 4 or 5 attack main stat, which can happen if you're using an attack engine like Astra Yao's, AP for slot 4 and Pen or Physical for slot 5 are decent options to boost her damage further. But for slot 6, for Anomaly teams, Anomaly Mastery is a non-negotiable requirement, since it literally makes her Anomaly-related buff stronger due to it being only one of 3 ways to increase her Anomaly Mastery. However, for non-Anomaly teams, where her additional abilities Anomaly buffs don't really matter, Attack percent to help her reach 3k attack, or even energy to spam more skills are options. But if you want to save yourself the hassle of changing her build every time you switch teams, just use Anomaly Mastery. As for substats, you mainly want to focus on attack stats first, then AP, then flat pen, and optionally crit stats. Like I kept yapping about, reaching 3k attack is a must in order to get her full attack buff. So as much as possible, prioritize attack stats over anything else until you reach this goal. Now, despite her off-field attacks not contributing to anomaly damage calculation, AP is still a pretty good stat to have for more consistent damage, especially in physical anomaly teams. But like I said earlier, she can trigger her own physical anomalies due to her EX special and ult having a pretty good anomaly build-up rate. As her crit, it can help squeeze in a bit more damage out of some of her abilities if you really wanna min-max her damage. But again, this is more optional than anything. It's much more important to prioritize getting 3k attack. Now for Anomaly Mastery, well, since there are no Anomaly Mastery substats, there are only 3 sources of Anomaly Mastery: an AM main stat, Phaeton's Melody, and her signature. Now sadly, without her signature, she only reaches 171 Anomaly Mastery. So her signature is pretty much required to get her full buff, since it puts her at 201 Anomaly Mastery, just one over her goal. With her stats out of the way, let's talk about possible teammates. Well, for teams and synergies, there isn't really too much to say. Yuzuha is pretty much the best in slot for any Anomaly team out there. Her ability to help build Anomaly super fast while boosting damage through her plethora of buffs makes her so good for those teams. Now you can use Yuzuha in any Miyabi team as a replacement to Astra Yao, Caesar, or Rina to trigger more disorders to help Miyabi spam more charge attacks, increasing her overall damage significantly, allowing for faster clears. And similarly, you can also use her on an on-field Yanagi team to help enable Yanagi's disorder damage even further, through faster Anomaly buildup or Yuzuha's disorder-related buffs. She also works with Jane or Piper in physical Anomaly teams, not only increasing their damage, but also helping them spam their assault anomalies so much faster. Which is extremely useful for Jane since she tends to apply anomalies slower. Just note, using Freedom Blues and investing more into Yuzuha's AP for this team specifically is recommended to boost this team's damage even further. Now her anomaly-related buffs and benefits also greatly benefit Alice since she is another disorder-based DPS. But sadly, I'll have to refrain from talking too much about her since she isn't out in the CE server yet. And finally, you can also use her in not-so-meta anomaly teams like Grey Shock or Disorder teams, and even my favorite main DPS Bernie's meme team. And she'd be able to support these teams' clear content relatively well. But like I said earlier, due to her 15% damage and huge 1200 attack buff, you can also use her as a more of a generalist support for a non-anomaly team. Now with her being tailored for anomaly, she isn't really better than Caesar or Astra for these teams. But with her attack and damage buff alone, it makes her a great alternative if you don't have them. You don't have to worry about activating Yuzuha's additional ability for non-anomaly teams since they don't really benefit much from it. So you can just think of her as a better Lucy. She's a better attack buffer that deals a bit more damage. You can run her in the standard hyper carry setup or a duo support setup alongside supports like Caesar, Nicole, or Astra. But as a generalist support, she can support any non-anomaly DPS in clearing most content in the game since any unit can benefit from her attack and damage buffs. But that's about it because I'm beginning to lose my voice. But there's just one last question. Is she a must-pull? Well, as usual, it depends on your account. She's not really a must-pull if you already have Caesar or Astra Yao and are satisfied with her performance in supporting your parties. In this case, it's much better to roll for someone that would benefit your account more or a character you like. Remember, the rest of the 2.x characters are still coming, so it's not a bad idea to start saving if you like any of them. However, Yuzuha is definitely a must-pull if you're needing a good support. She's able to take your Anomaly team's performance to the next level due to her plethora of Anomaly-related benefits, making her the best in slot support in any Anomaly team. But the neat thing is, she's not really limited to Anomaly teams either. Your huge attack and damage buff enables her to be ran as a generalist support, meaning she is a pretty versatile character that can support most of the DPSs and teams in the game. And due to this, you can't really go wrong with pulling for her because similar to Astra Yao, she will be viable for a long time, especially for Anomaly teams due to how good her buffs are. But at the end of the day though, if you like Yuzuha, pull for her, and if you don't, well don't. Personally, I'm definitely gonna be pulling for her because I don't really like missing supports when it comes to games like this. But most important of all, he's pretty adorable. But anyway, make sure to tell me what you think about her in the comments below, and don't forget to hit me with a like and a sub. Now, onto the showcases, and as usual, forgive my skill issue, I'm terrible at this game.